They even helped us. Weird. We had more people a month ago.
Well, the undergrad, at least the third years, are pretty busy this week. Because I got part of it.
They have stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff for your class to do? Or just in general?
They had stuff for my class. They have like 2 things for my class that they have to do.
But we did have these people from all over, but I don't know. We have to get our reminders to work better. And here you don't know how many people are. I
got the reminder today and
one on Thursday.
Yeah.
Good. Finally got that one to work. Hey, Mom. So yeah, I have 3:59. So I'm gonna wait. Oh, now it's 4 o'clock. I'm gonna wait for this. That's a
Yeah, that's 2 minutes back. And I'm not going to
all right. Okay, so I think it is 4 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and start our webinar, and this is being recorded, and we'll have it as an archive for people to get in the future. Hopefully people will be joining us as we go here. We do have a few people in the room here at UVA. So, this is our Mass UTC Careers in Transportation series, where Mass is the Mid-Atlantic Transportation Sustainability University Transportation Center. And over the summer, we had the idea of, we have these great resources in our advisory board. Why don't we have 3 of our members talk to us about what they're doing? And so they have graciously agreed. So Camelia Ravanbakht, who's going to be talking today, is our second speaker in our series. As you can see, we had one in September. We're going to have Donnie Williams from West Virginia DOT in November. So I wanted to just quickly talk about the resumes here. Jose Gomez, who talked to us, and the archives will hopefully be on the website in the next week or so. We delayed in putting that up there. So Jose was the research director for DOT, just retired a month ago and joined UVA. So that's been very nice to have him at the University of Virginia. Camelia will be talking to us today. She can definitely be telling us about all of her kudos, etc. I guess this is a big list of her awesome current titles, or other titles. But I did want to plug Donnie Williams is from West Virginia DOT. He's going to be talking to us on November 15th, and he's really eager to talk about his experiences with the DOT, sort of his advice for people on their careers. And so I'm happy I'm looking forward to Donnie's presentation. But I'm definitely looking forward to Camelia's presentation today, so let me go ahead and cue that up. So she can definitely pronounce her name better and tell us more about herself than I can. But I do want to appreciate that Camelia is here, and I do want to say that we do have more participants online. So I think hopefully a few more will be joining us as we go here to the people in the room. So with that, Camelia, I'll let you go ahead and start. And definitely, she did tell me that we can ask her questions as we go, so I can try to indicate from the room. But in general, she's going to be advancing her slides and doing things. But if we have questions in the room, I'll interrupt, hopefully at an appropriate time. And if somebody online wants to put something in the chat box, hopefully she can see it, and/or I will interrupt at an appropriate time. So with that, you can go ahead and start, Camelia. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Emily, and hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and it's really my pleasure to talk to you all today. And as Emily indicated, I really like to have it more like conversation. And if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt and ask me the questions. So with that, okay, maybe just a few words about myself. That I joined the commission that I'm working with many years ago, back in 1984, and I joined the commission as a transportation engineer. So I'm going to share some of my experiences in the past three decades with you, and hopefully you can learn from some of my experiences. And as I told Emily, I like to focus my presentation on the work that I have been doing for this regional planning commission, and which really deals with transportation planning and the process and how to go from a request that comes to us for a study all the way to put that study into a project and pass it on to VDOT for construction. The whole process takes about 15 to 20 years, so it's a very complicated, complex process, but let me just share some of it with you. As I was saying, I joined the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization many years ago as a transportation engineer after I finished my master's and PhD from North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And when I joined the TPO, we're going to go and use the abbreviation instead of saying Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization. You're going to hear me just saying the TPO. After I joined the TPO, I thought, okay, I just go and work there for a few years because a lot of my former advisors, they recommended that I get some experience before I go into teaching work. So I said, okay, I'll work for 5 years and then maybe I'll go and start teaching because I really enjoy teaching and working with the students as well. But as you can see, what happened in the past 3 decades, I really liked my work environment. I liked what I was doing. I liked the people that I was working with, and I got promoted in '87 and in 2008. And as you can see, I'm still here. I'm still interested in what I do. And I was also fortunate to be able to teach at Old Dominion University on and off, depending on my workload, and some graduate level transportation courses. Specifically, I was teaching ITS and operations type of courses in the past years. So with that, let's see. One of the first things I really like to share with you all is a lot of people see transportation. First, let me tell you that everybody has some expertise in the field of transportation, and because most of us drive, and we use our transportation system, so everybody has some kind of opinion about the system, how the system performs, how the system should perform. So basically, as you can see here on the slide, transportation really is a collage of all different modes, putting them together so you get a system. And for us as engineers, as planners, our job is to make the system a safe and efficient system so we can move people and goods. Basically, that's the goal that we all have to achieve. We are moving people and we are moving the freight across the region, across the state, and across our country. So transportation, if we look at it, if we look at our nation today, and I'm sure maybe some of you you have seen some of the statistics, 85% of us really, we live in metropolitan areas, whether they're large or small or medium-sized regions. And that makes really planning for how people and goods move within these different regions so critical and so important. And now it's really just a very, very critical task. And today what we like to do, I like to do, is to focus on transportation planning process, what it takes, what it does, and what opportunities are there for you as any of you is getting ready to graduate and join the workforce. There are many, many opportunities out there, whether as a transportation engineer or planner or data analyst. So I'm going to share some of that with you. Basically, maybe a couple of words on transportation planning process. This process, what it does, it uses a lot of information, a lot of data, and through some tools, some models that we have to communicate some of the solutions and some of the strategies that we see to solve our transportation problems through our public involvement, get a better transportation system performance. So this process, it doesn't really stop. We have to do this process on a continuous basis, and we have to monitor our system, our transportation network continuously. So when we say transportation, we're dealing with many other areas. For example, land use. Some of you probably know, you've seen in some of your classes, when we forecast traffic for the future, we have to know what each locality is projecting in terms of population, in terms of housing units, in terms of how many schools they're going to have, or retail, and et cetera. So land use is a major part. We have to also comply with a number of federal requirements. We have the Clean Air Act. Every transportation project, we have to make sure that follows the air quality standards. We have to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act. Also, it's known as NEPA. Every project has to go through a NEPA study. And we have to comply with Americans with Disabilities, Title VI, environmental justice. So when you look at all these different areas that we have to work with in order to take a project from planning all the way to construction, you can see that transportation is very, first of all, it's multimodal, and secondly, it's very interdisciplinary field. You have to deal with a lot of other areas in order to get your transportation project into fruition. So how do we do this planning process? The Congress and the federal government came to this conclusion that back in the 1960s, they passed legislation on Federal Aid Highway Act, which mandated that each urban area with population greater than 50,000, they have to have urban transportation planning, and in order to receive federal funding for their project. So this is how these regional planning organizations, like the one that I've been working for the past many years, they were created in the 60s, and since that time, Congress passed several transportation legislation, and starting back in 1991, they provided more power to these regional planning organization and more funding. Of course, with the funding comes a number of mandates. So when they send us the money, we have to, in return, we have to produce a number of documents, and we have to do some work in return for the money. Just to give you some, put things into perspective, if you are already not familiar with these MPOs, in the country right now, we have over 400 MPOs throughout the country. And what you see on the slide, it's a map of Virginia. There are 15 MPOs in Virginia. You can see all the way to the southeast, you see the Hampton Roads, our MPO, and then you can see even the one in Charlottesville, the one in Richmond. The largest one, it's our MPO, then Richmond, Fredericksburg, And Northern Virginia, even though it's the largest, but Northern Virginia, it's a multi-region MPOs. It's with the District of Columbia and also Maryland, so it's a tri-state MPO. So all the planning process in the Commonwealth of Virginia are handled through these MPOs. And why these MPOs are important, why these MPOs are essential, because we really don't have enough money to build everything that we need. So funding is very scarce, so we have to make sure that we allocate these fundings to the project that's going to give us the best return on investment. That's really important. We also have to make these transportation projects such that they're based on the vision that in a region that you live. And we, as MPOs, we have the task of facilitating and cooperating, bringing people to the table from various local governments, from different stakeholders, interested parties, and also the residents. Make them part of this process. And we also have to be very sensitive to the community interest, the policies and bylaws of the local governments. So how these MPOs, how do you define the MPOs? MPOs, as I mentioned to you, were created by legislation that was passed by Congress. So they have the authority of federal law. We have to comply with a number of federal regulations. The MPOs lead basically the transportation planning process for the region. The MPOs are where the decision makers, when I say decision makers, those are the elected officials in each region. They decide on the project. They decide how the funding gets allocated to those projects. And basically in terms of funding, just to give you some ideas, we are funded with 80% of our dollars come from Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration. And there is a match, 10% from the state, in our case is VDOT, and 10% from our local governments. So how does the MPO govern? It has a policy board, and I'm going to use an example after this slide, which is made of the elected officials. There are representatives from different modes, the transit agencies, from the freight. In our case, because Hampton Roads, we have the third largest port in Hampton Roads, the third largest on the East Coast. We also have some voting members and other regional stakeholders. This one, that if you are interested in working for an MPO, this gives you an example of how the MPO policy board is formed. And you can see I put the map of our region. If you're not familiar, Hampton Roads is located in the southeast portion of Virginia, and we have a population of 1.7 million. It's a beautiful area. We have wonderful beaches, and tourism, military, and ports are the three main sectors of our region. So, you know, as a civil engineer, as a transportation engineer, I always used to tell my students, this is really the mecca for transportation. You have all modes here. You have the freight because of our ports, you have the tourism, you have the military, we have the water, and the location of Hampton Roads being in the eastern portion of the country. It's just wonderful for transportation folks. And we have 22 voting members. You can see the list. I'm not going to read them. Those are all elected officials. And we also have some non-voting members, all those model agencies. And in our case, we have also representatives from the port, from our militaries, and from the airports. They all come here, and they come to our board once a month, and we make presentations to the board, and they get to decide on the number of things, including projects and funding and so on. So,
So actually, Camelia, can you go back? So I'm surprised that elected officials are on or the House, the Senate and the House representatives are there. Is that typical for all MPOs that people from the state government are there?
Yeah, this is a great question, Emily. Before 2008, we didn't have any membership from the Virginia General Assembly. And you know what happened, and we went through a number of reforms back in 2008. And through the reform process, we added 2 of our senators from the General Assembly and 2 from the member of the House of Delegates. And I think that was probably the best thing that happened to our MPO, and I tell you why. Because before the reforms in 2008, we used to do a lot of planning in this region. I mean, long-range plan, and we used to have all these projects. And, we did all the planning that we could, but then when it was time to go for funding, all those funding decisions used to take place in Richmond through the General Assembly. There was no connection between us, even though, I remember we used to go during the session, during the month of January and February sometimes, go to the General Assembly, go to some of those committees and try to make presentation, but there was a disconnect between our planning process and the funding and the decisions that were taking place by the legislators. So when we went through our reforms back in 2008, we did some research to find out, how other MPOs in the countries have their policy board. We realized at the time there were some MPOs, not that many, they had representations from the state legislature. And we presented that to our board, and it was well received, and we had 4 members from the General Assembly sitting at the table, and they are voting members. I can tell you that that was the best thing. As a matter of fact, this week we had our policy board, and I don't know if anybody is familiar with this region, but we do have a major bottleneck in this region. It's the Hampton Roads bridge tunnel on I-64. And if you're coming here you want to go to Virginia Beach, or even you want to go to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, you have to go. There are 2 major tunnels. One of them is the HRBT, Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. And it's been studied for 20 years, and of course, we never had any of these tunnel and bridge infrastructure. They're very, very expensive. They could cost $2 to $3 billion. So up to 3 years ago, we really didn't have enough money in the state, and everybody knows that we don't have much money coming from the federal government nor the state. Until legislation was passed 3 years ago, and they gave us, General Assembly created regional taxes, so the money would be used for our projects. Having said that, this week at our policy board, we presented some data and technical information on the Hampton Roads crossing study, which is a major study. It's been going on for our region. One of the alternatives that came out of this crossing study was to improve the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. And one of our voting members, which is a delegate from Newport News, he made a motion and carried that motion all the way with a unanimous vote from our board to recommend construction of or improving our Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, which ultimately is the body that makes the final decision. So the reason I'm saying that, because now we have General Assembly members sitting every month at our Transportation Policy Board. Now they understand the planning process. They understand what it takes to go from a study all the way to building a project. They carry that, information to Richmond when they go to the General Assembly every year, and that has been played a major advantage for us. I don't know if I probably gave you more than you wanted, but I
No, that's cool. So I guess I was curious compared to other MPOs.
Yeah, I know.
It does sound useful.
Yeah, I think in Virginia we're probably, we are the only one, but I know WashGOG, which is the Washington Council of Government, the MPO for Northern Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, they also have members from the legislature. I don't think they have 4. I believe they have 3 members from the legislature that serve on their policy board. So that, I think anytime somebody calls me from other MPOs and they want to learn about this, that's the first thing I make that recommendation to them, that if you are going to reform your policy board and your MPO, please consider adding some of your legislators to your board. This way you're really, you're removing that gap that existed for us in the past, that, we were talking to ourselves down here, talking about all these plans, but the information was never really understood the way that we wanted it by our legislator. So that was a plus for us. And so we, as you can see, we also have 2 transit agencies, and we have also Virginia Department of Transportation. We have the member from Department of Public Transportation, and also Virginia Port Authority. So you add up all these numbers, it becomes a 45-member policy board. And if anybody is interested, we videotape our policy board meetings, and they're all placed on YouTube on our website. If you like, if you like to see one of our meetings. The one that I highly recommend is the one that we had a few days ago on October 20th. That was last Thursday. That was an awesome meeting. So did I answer your question, Emily?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
So, it's up to you, but maybe if you spend another 10 minutes presenting, then we can ask questions for a while after that.
Awesome. Yeah, I should be done in 10 minutes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, the next slide, it just gives you an idea how the structure of our MPO is working for us. There is I'm the director of our MPO, and we have transportation planners. We have planner 1, 2, and 3, senior planner, and then principal. The same thing for transportation engineers. We have public involvement. We have 1 person handles our public involvement and community outreach. We have a staff that does a lot of data analysis for us, a website manager, and we also work with our sister agency, which is the Planning District Commission, on emergency management. They help us with hurricane evacuation and things like that. So one of the things I think you like to consider when you're looking to join the workforce and look for a job, you have to think whether you want to work for the public sector or the private. So there are advantages and disadvantages. Personally, I always wanted to work for the public sector, and that's why I'm still here. But a lot of people, they like the challenges of the private sector. I think from my point of view, if you work for the private sector, you have to be prepared to do a lot of traveling. They send you, I see a lot of my friends, they're always on the road, working on different projects, all over the country. So if you like that kind of work environment, I think it's perfect. But I think it's worth spending a little bit of time and thinking which way you want to go. or you can try, and then if not, that's the work environment that you like, you can always switch your job and find one that the sector that you are interested. Basically, on this slide, I just thought I list a number of associations, so you can look for. We usually post our vacancies on the AMPO website. AMPO is it's a national organization. It's an association of all the MPOs, and you can find they post a lot of job vacancies for a lot of MPOs. The other one is the American Planning Association. More on the engineering side, you can use, I'm sure most of you familiar or even member of ITE, and also you can look at the DOT's website. In Virginia, we always post on VASITE, which is the Virginia section of ITE, on VAMPO, is the Virginia Association of MPOs, and also on ITFA, it's the Intelligent Transportation Society of Virginia. And basically, or you can go to individual MPO websites for the openings. On this slide, you can see some of the areas of interest that our organization is interested in terms of transportation planning. We do travel demand modeling. If you know, we're using the CUBE model for our long-range plan modeling. We are right now very interested in active transportation, the concept of complete streets. We're doing a lot of freight planning, operations, signal studies, corridor studies, and also community outreach. The degrees that we usually require, either you come with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering with emphasis in transportation, or degree in urban and regional planning. And having a master's degree is always a plus. Having your planning certificate or PE is always good to have. So that also I would recommend. Or if you don't have your planning or engineering certificate, we help you here. We cover the cost once you become the full-time employee. We really have a good set of benefits. I'm not going to read them. You can read them on your own. But one thing that's good, we are on the Virginia retirement system, and we have really good paid schedule here, paid holidays, and we do have flexible work schedules. And for professional development opportunities, we really encourage our full-time staff to publish and attend TRB meetings, since it's not that far from here, and also to get your certification. And if you want to continue with your academic program, we cover your cost of getting if you don't have your master's degree, or if you want to take some courses that would help your work, we will cover those costs as well. So right now we have 3 job openings. One is for a transportation planner with really interest in public transit and active transportation. We like to develop a regional active transportation plan for the Hampton Roads region. And we're also looking for a community planner, somebody who's interested in public involvement and outreach to different communities. And we're going to soon advertise in the next month or so to have a transportation engineer who's going to help us with some corridor studies and some freight planning and so on. I think that's all I have for you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Great. So I think somebody's answering a question on the website. You know, we're excited about the picture of the beach that you're showing on this slide. So how far are the offices from the beach?
My office is about 15 to 20 minutes from the ocean front.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're all saying, wow, we're kind of jealous of that plan.
Yeah, it's a beautiful beach, and our office is in Chesapeake, and it's really not more than 15 minutes. You can go to the beach.
Great.
Yeah, Hampton Roads is a beautiful place. If you haven't been there, please come. Please come and visit us.
Right, and we do have at least one third year here at UVA. So are there summer opportunities? Would it be possible for her to get like a summer internship at HRTPO?
We do have internship. I forgot to mention, yes, we do have internship. A lot of times our internship, it's not paid internship, but we can work something out. So if somebody's interested, just send me an email for internship.
Okay, we can.
Are they still typing?
Yeah, they're still typing, so go ahead.
Okay. I actually live in Hampton Roads. I live 5 minutes away from the North Carolina-Virginia boundary, and every time I come to Charlottesville, it's a huge problem going through the Hampton Roads tunnel. Like, I plan my trip around the traffic there.
Yes.
He said that the city approved, or you were talking about like improving the HRT, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. What improvements are going to happen?
Okay, so good. That's a very good question. The alternative that our board recommended for the Commonwealth Transportation Board's consideration is improving 64 from the 664 at the Hampton Coliseum all the way to 564 in Norfolk, where Watts Corner area is. I don't know how familiar you are with that. So, yeah, that entire corridor is going to get improved, and from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, including a new 3-lane tunnel at the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. So it's expected, we just reviewed the schedule a few days ago, and we believe now that we have regional money and we can fund the major portion of the cost of this project, we believe this new tunnel will be completed by 2024.
Cool. Yeah, it always starts at the Coliseum. That's where the afternoon traffic is, so that's amazing.
Yeah.
And go on.
Yeah, the congestion and delay at the HRBT, I mean, we do a lot of congestion report, is really, I mean, every day it's at least 3 to 5 miles, and during the summer it could be 7 to 9 miles back up on the Norfolk side. And on the peninsula side, coming towards Norfolk, it's also about 3 to 5 miles, because a lot of people, they commute and they work at the Norfolk Naval Base. Right. And the Norfolk Naval Base is located in Norfolk, so they have, if they come from the peninsula, which is Hampton, Newport News, Williamsburg area, they have to cross the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. So it's a well-known bottleneck at the national level. I mean, you see it in a lot of publications. So I am very excited that, and I hope and I believe that the Commonwealth Transportation Board is going to take action and is going to recommend this alternative at their meeting in December.
Cool. So we do have a question in the chat box, so I'm going to read it out loud so we can see it in the room. Mahura says, sorry, I do not have access to the microphone, so I have to type my question. Do you have any projects dealing with demand responsive transit services? And he writes TRTs. If so, do you have any opportunities in the planning section that deal with demand responsive services?
I believe demand, even though we do some transit planning, but I think that service is handled by Hampton Roads Transit. That's the regional transit agency. And if you want to, we have included, let me just make sure I understood. Are you referring to Uber and Lyft type of services?
Okay, we're waiting for him to type it in.
Okay, that's fine.
And so, yeah, I mean, go ahead. I know that we have at least a couple people from ODU. If you guys have questions, definitely please type them in.
Right.
You know, and we'll come up with some other stuff here.
Yeah, what I can tell you that we are going to do a study this year. It's in our work program on demand responsive. If it's on Uber and Lyft, and how this new way of using transportation system is going to impact the transportation planning. We're going to do a comprehensive study, and whatever comes out of our study, we're going to work with our transit agencies because they're really implementing transit services in the region. We're just doing a lot of planning, but the transit agencies, those are the implementers.
So yeah, Mahuris has responded board that any type of dial ride service could be paratransit, but Uber is definitely one example. So I think it sounds like that, you know, the planning side might be what Mahuris is interested in. So
yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that job opening that we have for active transportation and transit planning, we're on using this person also for this Uber type task. Yes.
Well, and maybe Carly as an intern could help with that report this summer. That might work well.
I'm close by.
Yeah. So he said perfect, thank you, was Maher's response there. So that's pretty nice.
You're welcome.
So Mama, do you have any questions?
No.
No?
I have another question. What's a typical work day for you? What would you do in a typical work day?
Okay, for me, I'm usually here in the office. The office hours, let me just tell you first, it's basically from the standard office hours is from 8 till 4:30. I'm usually here around 7:30. I like to get here a little bit early before everybody else gets here so I can do some real work without getting interrupted. But and I stay here usually till 5:30. But regular office hours are from 8 till 4:30. But we started some years ago implementing alternative work schedule. That means you can come in a little bit earlier and leave later for maybe 4 days, and then you can have the 5th day work half a day. I have a lot of my staff, that's what they do. And either they take Thursday afternoon off or Wednesday or some of them Friday. We just can't let everyone take Friday afternoon off, even though some Fridays I sit around here and I said, oh my God, it looks like a ghost town. But a lot of our staff, they have alternative schedule. They come in earlier, and as long as they put their 40 hours work week, they can take that half a day off. But they have to work with their supervisors and make sure that we do have somebody here from their department. You know, I think the reason for that is I need to explain that because this is a public agency. We get a lot of people, they come here. So it's not like a number of, I know, consultant and private sector people, they work either from home but for us as public agency employees, we have to make sure that we have presence here. And when people come, we can be there for them.
I think Carly also meant like what you do during the day. Is that true? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just the timing, but also sort of the, you spend a couple hours on email, then you go to this meeting and that meeting. I mean, or,
My typical day is I work very closely with our executive director. I'm his deputy for the MPO. He has another deputy for the Planning District Commission, which does everything but transportation. So my typical day is to assist him, work with him as much as he needs me, do a lot of emails. I can tell you half of my day is probably either sending emails or responding. I also go to a lot of meetings. We have a number of committees. I work with the chair of our Transportation Technical Committee. We have a Citizen Transportation Committee. We have a Freight Transportation Committee. And we also have the Policy Board. I'm responsible for developing the agendas for our Policy Board, for our technical committees, for our Citizen, for all the other advisory committees. All these advisory committees, they advise our Policy Board. So I also develop all the agendas. I do have a great team of staff here helping me. We have about 12 planners and engineers, and I feel like I'm very fortunate to have these talented people here helping me to process all this work. I also provide a lot of assistance to our board members as needed. I work with the state. I work with the federal highway a lot. So I stay very busy with meetings, emails, phone calls, and also manage staff.
Yeah, so when you mention those reports, that are you sort of the final review of the reports, or do you have meetings to put them together, that kind of thing? Does that make sense to the question?
Okay, we have, Emily, we have 4 groups on the TPO side. We have a group for long-range plan with 3 staffs in it. We have a group for Transportation Improvement Program, which is all the funding and project allocation. We have a group for public involvement and community outreach. And we have a group for congestion, freight, and operations. So each of these 4 groups is led by a principal transportation, either engineer or planner. And under each principal, planner, or engineer, we have at least 1 or 2 planners and engineers working with the principals to either conduct the studies. We do a lot of studies ourselves. Unlike a lot of MPOs, don't hire consultants, and we do all these studies and corridor studies in-house. And so, my staff, they prepare their reports, but before it gets published or before we present to our committees and the board, I have to review and approve all these documents.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That definitely answered my questions, yeah.
Helps us understand. So, all right. I'm kind of eager for the ODU folks to ask a question, but you don't have to. I mean, at least, HRTPO isn't the ODU backyard. So,
I highly recommend all of our meetings are open to the public. And if you happen to be here, and please come and attend one of either technical committee or the policy board. It's really great learning. I would highly recommend that. Every time I teach a class, I always invite my students just to come and observe these meetings. It's very informational, and I think as a student, you would learn a lot. Because this planning process is just, it's just amazing. It's an amazing process. You see how these people, elected officials, sitting around the room, and we have 45 to 50 people, and they communicate and they discuss projects, and they all have to make decisions, and they all come from different localities and different agencies. So I really see this planning process as a fascinating process, how people, they all work together, and a lot of times they reach a consensus on these regional issues and projects.
Yeah, so since you sort of brought that up, I guess I'm personally curious. Like, so when the guy from Virginia Beach is sitting there next to the person from Williamsburg, does the Virginia Beach guy think that he has, like, his vote is more important, that he has a bigger say than the people from Isle of Wight or Williamsburg or Gloucester?
No, I think the way, when we went through our reforms, we also changed the way that our voting, we have a 3-step process for our voting, and the goal is to bring consensus. So it's not because Virginia Beach is the 500,000 population in this region has the most votes. No, you have to get the majority first. You have to get the majority. 3-step process. Step number 1 is to have majority of the board present and voting. Step number 2 is among the localities, you have to have a majority of the localities present and voting. And the last step is you have to have among the localities who are voting, you need to have their vote represented by 2/3 of the population of the region. So the way we designed this voting scheme was made that no one locality, big localities, they cannot hijack the vote and, squeeze the little guys. So you really have to make sure, you cover 2/3 of the population when you have all these localities, mayors voting on a particular. So
do the mayors attend the policy meetings, or is it like a city manager that comes?
No, in our case, the voting members are the mayors of the localities, and the city managers are non-voting. They don't vote.
So like the policy meeting on the 20th, you had a whole bunch of mayors there.
Yes, we had 13 mayors, we have 2 senators, we had 2 delegates, and we had, those were the elected officials, and then we had the VDOT administrator, we had the executive director of the Virginia Port Authority, we had the director of Department of Rail and Public Transportation, and we had the executive directors of the 2 transit agencies. Those were voting members. Yeah, it was a wow day for us. We were so, it was so exciting. That was an awesome day because we did a roll call, and every vote was a yes vote. And we went through, around the room. The way we do it, when we do the roll call, we have a spreadsheet for our voting scheme. We put it on the screen, big screen. We have 2 big screens in our boardroom. And so when we do the call, and then we put a check mark next to the name, and at the end, if we pass all those 3 steps, then the vote is unanimous, and they applauded themselves at the end of that vote.
Yeah, that sounds kind of exciting. So unfortunately, we do have a class that uses this room in a few minutes, so If people have one last question for Camelia, otherwise I think we should, and I keep saying Camelia, but Dr. Ravanbakht, we should thank her very much for joining us. I don't see any last second. Yeah, hi. So people are coming in, but I really appreciate this. I think this has been very informative, and I appreciate your time to tell us. And we will get this the recording out for others to be using it also. So thank you. Did you have any last words for us or something, Camelia?
I just want to say thank you, Emily, and thank you to all of you who were patient and listened to my talk. If you need any information, if you have any questions, just drop me an email. I'll be happy to help you guys. And thank you again.
That's great. Thank you. So her slides are here on the left under files. You guys wanted to download that, and we also should have them on our website. But thank you, and with that, I feel as we can stop recording, and I appreciate everybody's participation today.